We reported earlier that more women now accuse Donald Trump of improper physical conduct. This morning's New York Times features accounts by two of those women. CBS News has not confirmed their stories, but Rachel Crooks was a 22-year-old receptionist at a company inside Trump Tower back in 2005. The Times says that she introduced herself to Trump and they shook hands. The report says that soon after, quote, he began kissing her cheeks. Then she said he kissed me directly on the mouth. Another accuser, her name is Jessica Leeds, she told The Times that Trump's hands were all over me during an airplane flight. The 74-year-old says it happened more than 3 decades ago.
He was like an octopus. It was like he had 6 arms. He was all over the place. And if he had stuck with the upper part of the body, I might not have gotten that upset. But it's when he started putting his hand up my skirt. And that was it.
The Trump campaign immediately responded saying, quote, this entire article is fiction. This truly is nothing more than a political attack. This is a sad day for the Times. And overnight, Trump's lawyer demanded the Times retract its story and issue an apology, saying, quote, failure to do so will leave my client with no option but to pursue all available actions and remedies. We asked the Trump Organization to provide someone to talk to us, but it was unable to do so. The New York Times national political reporter, Michael Barbaro, and Times reporter Megan Twohey wrote the story. They're in Studio 57 for their first TV interview about this article. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So tell us about these allegations made in your story, Megan.
Right. So Jessica Leeds is a woman who shared her story with us and said that a little over 30 years ago, she was on a plane seated next to Donald Trump when he proceeded to grope her and put his hand up her skirt, forcing her to flee to another seat in the plane.
So that allegation comes forward. It's from 30 years ago. How do you verify it? How do you know that something like that is worth putting in the paper?
Well, we can also, and we're happy to discuss that, but the second allegation was made, dates back to 2005 from a young woman who was working in Trump Tower at the time. She was a 22-year-old receptionist for Bayrock, a company located there. She said she bumped into Trump outside an elevator and that, she introduced herself, they shook hands, he kissed her on the cheek, and then proceeded to kiss her on the mouth, and she felt uncomfortable about it. So what do you do when you get, when two women come to a newspaper and tell stories like that?
Did they reach out to you all? Did you put out a call for them? What happened?
They did.
They reached out to us.
And
correct.
then back to Nora's question, how do you verify it?
So what we do is we interview the women in both cases more than once to make sure we had, what they told us in their emails and, lined up with what they told us in interviews. And then we also, in both cases, these are women who had shared their stories with friends and family. In the case of the 22-year-old, she immediately made a phone call to her sister right after this happened. She went home that night. She told her boyfriend, so we talked to the boyfriend, we talked to the sister. In the case of Jessica, we talked to, other people she had told as well.
And did you talk to Donald Trump?
Yes, Megan did. But before we get to that, we talked not just to the two women who went on the record and used their names, we talked to the people around them who went on the record and used their names. There are no anonymous quotations in this story. These are people who are putting their names and their reputations by the claims that were described in these stories. I think that's important.
At the time that they alleged these assaults, they had told close friends and family who recall similar stories.
In the case of Rachel Crooks, that's absolutely correct. In the case of Jessica Leeds, she began about 1.5 years ago, she said, to tell a widening circle of people, including her son, her nephew, and more than 2 friends, but we talked to 2 friends as well as the nephew and son, who recall the details of what she told them, which lined up with what she told us.
Megan, you talked to Donald Trump, you said?
Right, absolutely. So we would never just go ahead and publish these accounts without talking to the presidential candidate himself. And so on Tuesday night, he got on the phone with me and I spelled out the allegations and, gave him a chance to respond.
What did he say?
What did he say? Yes. Don't leave that line,
right.
Megan.
So he insisted that all of the allegations were a fabrication and that the New York Times was making them up. And he got increasingly agitated as I continued my questions and started to yell at me and told me that I was a disgusting human being.
Mm-hmm. And what did you think of that? Have you had anyone speak to you like that in the past?
That has not. I have not had that experience before, but
And what do you say to that? Okay, thank you so much. Talk to you later.
Well,
What-
you keep asking
talking.
questions. You keep
Okay.
asking questions.
Now-
There was, once again, these women, I think, were inspired to go on the record, especially after the debate on Sunday when Trump was asked about this. As we all know, on Friday, there was this recording released in which he, in his own words, was describing kissing women and groping women without consent. Anderson Cooper asked him about this in the debate on Sunday directly. You've said this on it. You were caught talking about this behavior on tape. Have you in fact done this? And he looked at Cooper and said, no, I haven't. And which was, I think, for the women that we spoke to, part of a motivation to speak out.
They were watching the debate.
And
just
so
the way
they
we
reached
were.
out to you after the debate.
Jessica Leeds was watching the debate. She and her friend turned to each other, mouths agape, according to both of them. And the next day, she wrote an email to the New York Times.
But you all had done another story. You were here back in May talking about Donald Trump's behavior around women. And after that story, Roanne Brewer came out and said that you misrepresented her experience. She said, quote, "They spun it to where it appeared negative. I did not have a negative experience with Donald Trump."
Yeah, so that was, we did in fact do a story in May about looking at Trump's treatment of women, and it was an extensive story.
But she said she was misrepresented.
And we quoted, right, we included the voices of many women, and Roanne Brewer did not like the story in the end, and but we have not received any request for a correction or retraction from Roanne.
Or from Donald Trump.
Or from Donald Trump.
And you point out in your story that the two latest women you're talking about told you that they support Hillary Clinton, which
Yes.
Donald Trump would say, look, this is another way of attacking me.
Well, we believed it was important. We actually proactively sought information about their political views and decided to include it. We thought it was an important disclosure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Megan Twohey, thank you so much for joining us this morning.